This is what God designed marriage to be. Jacob, do you remember Jacob? Marriage is such a wonderful attraction that 7 years of hard labor waiting for this is like a moment. Let me read to you chapter 29. Do you remember Jacob was making a deal to get his wife, and her dad Laban tricked him and gave him the wrong wife, so he had to wait 7 more years? Listen to this. So Jacob served 7 years for Rachel, and they seemed like only a few days to him because of the love he had for her. That's biblical marriage. That 7 years would seem like nothing to wait for that one that you love so much. Psalm 128 says marriage is supposed to be like a fruitful vine that delightfully grows around our life. How do you get that? Well, you have to be or become and wait and find a person who believes God designed marriage. What you have to do is find someone that wants a Genesis 2:18 marriage. You know what God says? For this cause shall a man leave his father and mother and cleave to his wife. And so there's leaving and cleaving. And then the next two parts, do you guys know Genesis 2:18? It's really the framework of marriage. It says in verse 18, I will make you a helper comparable to him. So you have to see that God has made someone that completely fits into your life. One of the ways, and I would, if this wasn't my seating chart, what I would do is I would tear this sheet and go, voo, 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 and I would have 2 pieces. And then I would bring those 2 pieces together and show you how they exactly fit to make the sheet. That's the Hebrew word comparable, that it exactly conforms. But how does it happen? Keep going down to verse 24. Therefore a man shall leave his father and mother, that's severance, and be joined to his wife, that's permanence. So God wants you to sever from all other relationships that you were a part of and permanently cleave to the one that he's given you. And it says, and they shall become one flesh, that's unity. So, severance. What time is this class over? Oh, good. Was that someone's phone or is that mine? Oh, I just thought the class was over and we're getting to the good part. I was going to have you miss your break. Severance, permanence, unity, and then the last one, and they were both naked, the man and his wife, and they were not ashamed. Boy, is that ever an interesting verse. You know what that talks about? The absolute amazing part. It's not unity, by the way, in this verse, is sex. Intimacy is not. You know what intimacy is? It's what's missing from most marriages. Intimacy is an absolutely transparently shared spiritual, emotional, mental life together. It's totally living with someone where you're not hiding anything. You know what most people, they don't have a shared life. They have 2 separate lives. They live, men, they live with the guys. They're always in their gaming stuff that they do, or their sports betting, their fantasy football, they go hunting, they're in some kind of a jogging thing, workout thing, and they see their wife and their kids. But they have a life apart. Women, do you know what most women? They're closer to their mother than their husband. They're closer to their sisters than their husband. They're closer to their children than their husband. That's honestly most marriages in America. I don't know about Korea and Taiwan and Canada and, Florida. Who's Canada? Canada, there we go. There's another Canadian. Who's the other Canadian? Canada. And Korea and everywhere, and Japan. In America, most women are best friends with their mother, their sisters, their kids, not their husbands. Do you know what God says? Well, let me show you what God says, okay? Let's keep going. A person who will correspond to you, that's what I just went through here. A person who will be glued to you permanently. Have you ever seen an envelope that has this sticky stuff on it, but you can peel it up? You know, it's a self-stick envelope. And so you seal it, and then you go, oh, I forgot to put in the money. So you carefully undo it, and you put the money in, and then you seal it. Have you ever noticed it doesn't quite seal the same way? Did you know why many people have very unhappy marriages? Because they have cleaved to too many people. They've stuck, unstuck, stuck. Do you know what dating has become in America? It's like stuck, unstuck, and so they have lost that complete permanent relationship. They've shared it with too many people. They're not glued to their husband or wife. A person who likes to be home and not always running. Do you know what the goal of marriage is? God says that you establish a home that becomes your focus. We're going to see this when I get to Titus in just a minute. A person who loves children, wants to teach them. Do you know what Paul told women? He said, you cannot be an elder or a pastor. God says, a woman cannot be an elder or a pastor. I'm glad I didn't say that. I would get in trouble. God said that. But you know what Paul said to the women? He said, you will be saved from second place, as if the husband would be number one. He said, the husband is not number one. You are saved from being second place if you share in the having children and becoming a homemaker. Do you know what our culture says the greatest thing for you to do? Get a career. You become the greatest ad executive in the world. You become a lawyer, a partner in a law firm. Forget the kids, forget the husband thing. You need to do that. Boy, I'm glad I'm not broadcasting this. I was at a church in California where the pastor actually preached a sermon like that, and the Los Angeles newspaper got wind of it. The next Sunday, there were thousands of people protesting in front of John MacArthur's church. Thousands carrying signs saying, this man is taking us back to the Stone Ages. You know, before long, he's going to be dragging women by the hair behind him like a caveman, you know. And all he was doing was reading what I just said from the Bible. God says, you want to have a Christian home and a Christian marriage? Find a person who loves children and wants to teach them. On our second date, or maybe it was our first one, we went to a professor's home at Bob Jones University, and Bonnie, I had really never met Bonnie before. I picked her up and took her to this place. It was safe, and I couldn't wait to meet her. She walked in, looked around. The professor started talking to me, and before I knew it, Bonnie was sitting on the floor with his grandchildren, talking to the kids. And they were all just surrounding her like magnets. And they were just focused on her. And I just stood there. I will never forget that moment. And I thought, wow, she loves children. And children love her. And the elderly professor looked at me and said, who's your friend? He said, she's really something. And he saw it too. You see, God says, find someone that loves children. Find someone that loves to teach them, because they will be, if they're your wife, they'll be saved from second place because they get to raise the children and influence them more than anyone else ever will. Someone that wants a pure home, someone that keeps their word. Okay,